Hey everybody, welcome to the Mike Rand Show, and today's special guest from G.L.O.W, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, Little Egypt. Hey Little Egypt, how are you?
Hey, good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're so happy to have you here today. We're gonna have a fun-packed show. We know you got some great stories to share with us. And the first story we want to hear is, how did you get started in G.L.O.W?
So I love my story because it's actually a story of female empowerment. I was 19 years old working in a t-shirt store in Las Vegas, Nevada, and in walked Mount Fiji, 350-pound Samoan princess. And she needed to get a shirt made, and she was just such an incredible presence. I started talking to her and asked her what she did, and when she told me she was a wrestler, she looked at me and she said, "You could do this too." And I didn't really know what that meant because I was 19 years old and I knew of wrestling because of the WWF at the time, but I didn't really know what she meant. I really thought maybe her job was to recruit like small women like me and just like break our legs. I didn't really know what the rule was. So she told me I could go down and talk to her friend David McLean. And what was really interesting about my story is that after meeting with David McLean, I went right into training, and 2 weeks later, I was on my first match against Chainsaw and Spike. It was a tag team with Little Fiji, and oh my gosh, Entertainment Tonight was there. We did not have social media at the time, so when I was wrestling for the very first time, my family was watching in New Jersey on Entertainment Tonight. How crazy is that?
That's nuts. And that's really unheard of for any of the other girls, right? To be trained and in the ring so quickly, that just like you did.
Yeah, actually totally unheard of, especially now when we have, farm teams and we have all these developmental programs that will help a wrestler like develop their skills. What was very interesting about my journey is that it was of an evolution that you could actually watch play out on national television. Like it was, from my very first kicks and stomps to actually getting to the point where my favorite moves were flying drop kicks, and I could actually do helicopter spins with attaché, and feeling really good as a wrestler towards the end of my career.
What was it that Mount Fiji and David McLean said that convinced you to come on board to G.L.O.W?
Well, Mount Fiji told me about the money, and it sounded way more fun than what I was doing folding t-shirts in a t-shirt store. And David McLean, he was just, I was just someone else that he was throwing into training to see if they would survive. He was like, "Yeah, sure, come on, yeah." Well, it wasn't like he saw me right away and said, "You're Little Egypt." He was like, "Let's see if she gets through a few weeks." And this was at the time of the end of season 1. A lot of girls were getting hurt. A lot of girls weren't coming back. They had had enough. And then this was like, we have to get some girls, got to get some new talent in there right away. And I came in at the end of season 1 and then went all the way through season 2 before the show was recast for season 3 and 4.
Were you athletic growing up?
So athletic in the 80s, I guess you could say athletic in the 80s for me was powder puff football a couple times. It was doing aerobics. It was, that was it. Like no, I was not athletic. I was never like on a team sport. I was just coachable.
Were you scared when you got into the ring that you could get hurt when you got in for the first time? Or did you feel safe with your training?
Oh no, I was petrified. And that was because I was watching the other girls and I was so impressed by like what they were doing. This was where like Americana had her match against Attaché that day, and Nanuchka, and then I think also Queenie came in, Matilda the Hun came in with Hollywood and Vine for the Nazi match that they did, and they were flipping and flying all over the place. And I was just worried that would I ever be able to get to that level. When I did my first 2 matches that same day, I actually had 2 matches. First one with Chainsaw and Spike, and then the second one with the Housewives, which were also Chainsaw and Spike. But so I only worked with them, and they were so amazing to work with. They're like, hey, girl, listen, you don't have to worry about us. We don't wrestle. I was like, thank you. Thank you. I just needed to get the jitters out. And it didn't help that Entertainment Tonight was there when I entered the ring, but it's still, you gotta just get uncomfortable, right? You gotta jump and the net will appear. You gotta, just go for it, and you'll find your wings on the way down. Like these are things that I was not taught at that early age, but because of the way I was raised in my family, I was raised with this mentality that, you can accomplish whatever it is you want. And I always had so much encouragement from my mom and dad that I just, I didn't have any preconceived notions, nor did I have any issues with my own self-confidence at the time.
Who was the person that trained you?
Attaché.
And how was Attaché in the ring? I mean, Attaché was awesome, but what were your experiences with Attaché?
I actually had a singles match against Attaché. I was so excited. Like towards the end of my career, I went from tag team matches to single matches. And Attaché was one of my singles matches. And oh my God, I was like, yay, here's the thing. When you're wrestling, if you don't know the girls really well, it's really hard to allow them control of your body. Think about this, okay? When you're a small girl like myself, you're not the one doing the throwing. You're the one being thrown. And honestly, there were girls, and I'm not going to name names, that wouldn't be fair, but there were girls that I did not recognize because I didn't see them in training. I knew they were partying hard, right? And then they would come in and they would be all like on adrenaline. And those were the matches where I would actually get like hurt and I'd be bruised and my hair would be falling out, because they pulled too hard and they stomped and they literally took the wind out of me. Like, that's not how you do a stomp. You can't sell when you really got the wind knocked out of you. It's the worst look on television, right? Because you're just like frozen and you're like, there's nothing to sell. You're dead. And so working with Attaché was awesome because she was my trainer and I got to feel really confident with her. And we only did stuff that I knew how to execute well. And even in that match, I was really super tired because it was a high level match and anything you do with Attaché is high level. She was a freaking phenomenal little athlete. I mean, do you remember that scene where Fiji threw her out of the ring? Like,
yep.
But that was a hell of a bump. She just went flying into the chairs. Like, this was like I was not even at that level, but Attaché was such an amazing trainer. She came from, she not only did she evolve as a wrestler and took her craft really seriously, but when she wasn't in the ring, when she wasn't training, she was educating herself. She was watching videos. She was practicing. She wanted us to be able to do those types of moves that we were seeing on the WWF at the time. And I honestly felt really fortunate to be part of her training group. I was in there. I'll tell you some of the girls that I was in there with to give you an idea. I trained with Dementia. I got to see her come in season number 2. She was extremely strong, powerful. We're talking about Dimension number 1, not the recast Dimension number 2, Nancy. This Dimension number 1 was extremely strong. And then, and I felt really comfortable with her in the ring. Also, Amy the Farmer's Daughter. I got to see her green. I got to see her on her first day, her eyes like this going, I got to do what? Like these are the girls that were coming in, the headhunters. You don't remember them or not, but the headhunters were in my training group. And those are the ones that kind of came off the top of my head because I saw them regularly and they were really investing in learning how to become a wrestler. And you know what? This is the way I looked at it. Like I was not a wrestler. I had no wrestling background. So I was at every training. Like I would never for a minute thought I was too good to stop going to training. Even when new girls were coming in, I was right there. I was doing the rolls. I was doing the warm-ups. I was running through matches. So sometimes when we had a match, let's say I was going to be doing a match with Soul Patrol, and they wanted to execute some moves on me. They were like, hey, we just watched this and we want to do this. It would be in front of attaché first. Like, I need to see if you can pick me up. Like, you're just not going to just like execute a move without like a certain level of confidence. And so we would use our time with the attaché too to really run through our matches, feeling a level of comfort. We would see something on television. She would help us execute it. And you had to, as a wrestler, you had to really hold ground. Here's what I mean by holding ground. Girls wanted to look impressive on television. When you were a small girl, it was like, how can I break this one in two so I can look like a badass, so I can make it to the next match and have all this fear for my next opponent. You know, this is going to look great on television. But when I talk about holding ground, it's like, hey, I want to execute this move. And if I didn't feel comfortable, there were some girls that were just more, they didn't hold their ground as well. And so they would say, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Like, you know, just because they wanted to be the team player. And I absolutely wanted to be a team player, but I also knew that no one was going to look out for me but me. Like, so if I didn't feel comfortable, I'd be scrap that. We're scrapping it. You got to come up with something different. Like, this is towards the end of the match when you're the most tired and you want to lift me up and do this. And if you don't throw me flat, if I don't land flat, I'm landing on my shoulder. I have 2 torn rotator cuffs. And that's from girls I trusted, right? Like, those are the girls that I allowed to throw me. But when you're tired at the end of a match, man, you just kind of just try to execute the move, and you don't realize how much energy you need towards the end of a match. So does that help? I'm trying to give you content that maybe hasn't been explored yet or talked about, or kind of a behind the scenes feel of what really goes on with young women wrestlers when they're trying to make a name for themselves.
Yep. And then because of all this physicality that you had to do in the ring, what did you do outside of the ring to prepare yourself for your matches?
Nothing. Mike, this is the 80s. This is the 80s. I mean, I wasn't even, at this point, I wasn't even taking aerobic classes because I was in training 3 days a week, right? I went 3 days a week, and then we were given, I think, our matches on Friday. Like, this is what you, and we have like a week to prepare. So when I wasn't in training, I was like going to the girls' rooms, trying to pencil out the match, you know, trying to put things together. So even though I was in training 3 days a week, I was still at the Riviera every day, and I really didn't have time. And you know what? We had these buffet tickets, unlimited amount of buffet tickets. Like, we could eat at the buffet 20 times a day, no one cared. And so when I wasn't training, I was eating the worst food you could possibly imagine, like mashed potatoes and gravy, and everything was like, I don't know, so fattening and ridiculous. It was really tough to get good quality food. I mean, we're talking buffets in the 80s, and I'm a Vegas girl, right? Like, I grew up in Las Vegas. I got there when I was in the 3rd grade. So whatever age that is, 7, 8 years old. And so growing up in Vegas, I can tell you that the buffet food at that time was not quality. So does that help give you kind of a perspective there?
Yep. And what were some of your favorite matches? You had tons of matches over the years. What were your favorite ones?
Yeah, I actually did have tons of matches, and that was because we were heavy with bad girls in season 2, especially, like really heavy with bad girls. So they couldn't, you know, each bad girl might have had 1 or 2 matches. I had to have like 3 or 4. I was coming in on different tag matches. And so I'm kind of mad at myself a little bit, because there were sometimes I would enter a ring, I didn't have my full belly dancing outfit on. I was just so tired. I came in hair and pants, and I'm like, trying to belly dance real fast and get in the ring because you're exhausted. You're just simply exhausted. So my favorite matches my favorite match of all time was never shown on television. And that was the match with Palestina. It was a duel in the desert, and it was a match to the death. We had props, we had swords, we had sticks. You know, this is that opening scene, the G.L.O.W entrance scene where I break a chair on Palestina's back. That was from that match that never aired. And the reason I was told was it was because when I was putting that match together with Palestina, her and I were just really compatible, and we were making it really even. Like, I mean, it was a beautiful match where, you know, she cheated at the end, but it was a chance for little Egypt to kind of show her shit. Like, oh, you told me not to cuss. And
That's okay.
Okay. So, so when I start talking wrestling, I just like, all of a sudden my Jersey family comes out of me and like, you know, okay. So, what happened was it just it took away her like villainness. Like they didn't want her character to be exposed with too much weakness in the ring against Little Egypt. So they just thought, great match for Little Egypt, but you know, this is the terrorist, and you know, she needs to be more scary than that. So it never aired. But here's the thing, Matilda's husband was always there at ringside on film days, taking pictures. And I have a great collection of photos of the match, which you can find on Facebook. I have a Facebook group called, not a group, it's a page. It's called the official, no, it's not. Sorry, names keep changing. It's called G.L.O.W, G.L.O.W, Little Egypt. Okay, if you go to Facebook, put in G.L.O.W Little Egypt, you'll see my page. And then just go to Old School Photos. It's an album, and you will see like 5 or 6 of those photos from that match. That's without a doubt my favorite. And then I would say my other favorite matches were either the comedy kind of matches against Chainsaw and Spike, or the Housewives, which the hardest part about wrestling the Housewives is not laughing. Like,
I bet.
That is the hardest part, because you can hear them. And even if it's not getting caught by the audio, right, by the mics, they were just rolling. They are just so brilliantly talented, and they needed a whole show just on their own. They were
watching them was so hilarious that I don't know how you kept a straight face in the ring, not cracking up during the match.
Oh, well, my first match with them, remember when I told you I came out on day 1? I actually broke character, and you can see it. Like I just like did one of those. If you would watch the match, it's very unprofessional, but I couldn't help it. They were freaking hilarious, and I got better at, you know, being in character more. But let me tell you, those girls are, and they're so easy. Like, I mean, you didn't even really have to take a bump. And I can't believe that I ended my career. I started my career with my first match against Chainsaw and Spike, and I ended with them in the ring as Chainsaw and Spike. Isn't that awesome? What a beautiful story of coming full circle in my wrestling career.
Yep. And a couple other people that you had mentioned that you had wrestled with, actually Ninotchka. Could you tell us a little bit about working with Ninotchka and your match with Ninotchka?
I was so excited when they said a singles match against Ninotchka. Here she was, a G.L.O.W champion, right? Like, the only matches I ever won were the ones where I was tag teaming with someone else, like Tina Ferrari or Americana, and I was able to like get a win, you know, just because they were so amazing. And wow, when I was building that match with Ninotchka, she actually came up with the idea of the dance of the 7 veils. Of course, she's a choreographer, she's a professional dancer. Like, she's like, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna execute 7 moves, and for each move, I'm gonna take one of the veils off. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best. I only have 7 moves, and I trust you explicitly. I mean, explicitly is what I'm trying to say. And because I trusted her, I mean, those were some really serious, the backbreakers, and you know, some of her moves were just executed so perfectly. Like, this could be for the 80s. that was a high level match. And I'll always be able to look back at that and just go, yeah, I mean, yeah, I was little, but when paired with the right person, I was able to deliver some really good bumps for that wrestler.
And then also, you did have a lot of tag matches. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of your partners. So the first one I want to talk about is who was your tag team partner most of the time, Little Fiji. How was Little Fiji working with?
She was so easy. Oh my God. Okay. So I loved working with Little Fiji. She actually was Chinese. And a lot of people don't know this. Her family owned my favorite Chinese restaurant in Las Vegas called the Mayflower. Like I would go eat there all the time. So when I met her and she was, I was like, so what's it like living in Fiji? You know, she's like, I'm not Chinese. I thought, oh my God. She goes, my family owns that restaurant. I thought, I love it there. Oh my God. So, you know, we talked about the schools we went to, we connected real well. And her gimmick, you know, the way she wrestled, she really was confident in the ring and took a lot of bumps. But she didn't put up much of a fight. Like I was more of a, like, went down screaming. She didn't go down screaming. She would like, and she'd get hurt and then she'd get back up and she'd take another bump. And I would be more like the instigator, like the one that was like, we can't go down like this. We gotta fight, you know? And at least she always had Mount Fiji that could come in and rescue her. I had no one that could come in and rescue me. So I was like, we're on our own. You know, that we got to get out of this, you know, and that's what made it a really good pair. Plus we were almost the exact same size. Like it was kind of fun to watch us, especially when we were up against Matilda the Hun, because we paired so nicely with her. And that was just another just rock star that just knew how to put together a story. She was so good.
And then how was it like working with the California Doll?
You know, we actually, you know, if you had to say like who was my best friend in G.L.O.W, well, the doll and Amy were the best of friends, right? But the doll and I were like right there with, like, she is who I gravitated to. The doll was from Vegas too. So a lot of people don't know that. And she was living off, you can say off campus, off the Riviera, like I was. So we were coming in to the Riviera. So there was this culture of, we don't really have this super deep connection with some of the other girls because we're not partying with them. Doll had a boyfriend. I had a boyfriend. So we were, I mean, talk about good girls being perfectly good girls. Like we just went to work, went home, got back. And, you know, the doll and I are still connected to this day. I adore her. We're Facebook friends. I check in with her all the time. What a beauty she was, and a body. Oh my God. And she was just such a good wrestler. I loved being able to tag team with her. Because she was just like fearless, and she was so fun to work with because we were really good friends. So I couldn't wait. You know, I loved tagging with the doll.
And Amy, the farmer's daughter.
Amy was just absolutely delicious and so fun to hang out with. She had such a vibrant personality. And I just spoke to her maybe about a year ago. I got her number to check in with her. She didn't make it in the documentary because I couldn't find her at the time. But just hearing how she's doing, and she still has that, like, that energy for life, you know. She still is really a super passionate person. Her and David McLean were seeing each other. This is no secret, okay? They were dating each other, so they were in a passionate love affair. And the doll and Amy looked great tag teaming together, these two gorgeous blondes. But when I got to be with Amy too, I was like, I get to be with Amy. It was really super fun. We had a match with Matilda. That was the first match I showed my son when he was in, I think, maybe 3rd grade or 4th grade. He cried. And he was, you know, he was like, why are you getting hurt? You know, all this. So then I didn't show him any more matches. And then when it started resurfacing in when like 2008, you know, that's when G.L.O.W started kind of having this cult following on YouTube. That's when I started really sharing with Jacob my history in G.L.O.W, but he still promised, like we had a promise. I'm like, look, son, I'm doing this documentary. I'm giving interviews, but I'm not talking about it. Here's why, because I don't want your high school friends going to look for these videos and then talking about your mom in a weird way. Like and he's like, I'm not embarrassed, Mom. I think this is great, Mom. I said, I know you do, son, but after you graduate, then you can tell the whole world. And so he promised to keep that quiet for a couple of years. And I was so glad he did. Now here's the thing, Mike. My son went to college. He went to an awesome school, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. It's really like one of the leading colleges in California. He founded a fraternity. He's like this really, he majors in entrepreneurship, just like his mom. He's like this, like unstoppable human being. And I became really cool in his fraternity. Like I became like, your mom is what? Like your mom's that. And then I aired on The Bachelor with Ursula. Do you remember that? And they had this big, like they were watching The Bachelor all the time. So when his mom got to be on The Bachelor, they had this big viewing party and everyone was drinking and girls were over there and they were just like, your mom's a rock star. But it was the emotional age of his friends at that time. Because the emotional age of his friends when he was in high school was something I didn't want him to have to defend me. I didn't want him to actually get upset or feel like he has to validate what I did. And then it worked, and it was worth the wait, because when it matured and evolved and all his friends had a different emotional age, then they could really appreciate just like the work that his mom was doing at that level when she was just 19 years old. So anyway, I'm sharing that with you guys because this is stuff I usually don't talk about. So hopefully this is content that, it'll make it worth the listen for you guys.
And also, you did have one opponent. I think you'll know who I'm talking, or actually you didn't get her actually as an opponent, who I think you're going to know who I'm talking about, who you go up certain levels in G.L.O.W.
Yeah.
Until eventually you reach a certain opponent. Do you happen to know who I'm talking about? That you didn't get to wrestle her, but you were kind of fearing for the day you might have to go in the ring with her. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Okay. So, and by the way, I don't even know where Spanish Red is. I would love to find her. I'd love to give her a big hug. You know what? Here's the thing with Spanish Red. She was the sweetest freaking person in the world. Like, just a joy to be around. And in the ring, no one knew who she became. Like, she became a crazy woman. Like, I was so worried that I would have to have that experience. Like I did, like she lost it. Even if you said, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, she's going to do it anyway. And that's what really got the girls like pissed off. It was like, I told her not to do it and she did it anyway. Like, what the hell? And then afterwards, like when they're confronting her, like, what the F, man? Why did you do that? And she was like, I don't know. I just got in my head. Like, what the F? Don't get in your head. We're paid to deliver a performance. Like, we all have a job to do. Don't go off the script. And it didn't matter. She did it anyway.
Is there anybody over the years, whether it was during your years or later on, that you didn't get a chance to wrestle that you would have liked to have wrestled?
Well, in season 1 and 2, like that's my season. So, but if you're talking about if I could have been on all 4 seasons, if I didn't I would love to have wrestled Godiva. Like, I think her and I would have put together a great match. We became really good friends after G.L.O.W, probably for the last 7 years. We do a lot of fun things together. We enjoy life together. And it's just, she's such a great heel. And, I think we would have had a lot of fun. We've done a lot of interviews. We've done a lot of photography, and it just looked good. She looked really powerful. She's bigger than I am, and she's a great heel. And so it's just kind of a nice combination. I liked it a lot. So that's who I think I would want to wrestle the most.
So you mentioned earlier that your career started with Chainsaw and Spike and it ended with Chainsaw and Spike. Can you let us know exactly what led you to leave G.L.O.W?
I was injured and was put into early retirement, you could say. So I tore my ACL in the ring, and the ironic thing was I was such a careful wrestler, and I was really at the end very tactical, and I really could execute my moves well towards the end, and I was so confident. And I blew my ACL because I was a barefoot wrestler, and my heel caught in the separation of a match going in for something as stupid as a headbutt. A headbutt is the easiest thing to execute. You just plant your feet, put your hands up, and then go into the person's stomach like that. But when I planted my feet, my heel caught and snapped my knee right there on the spot. I was done. And oh man, that was such a horrible time for me because I really believed I was going to be a wrestler as a career. Like I really felt like these were my sisters. This was my sorority. These were my family. And then in a minute, it was all taken from me. I couldn't go back to training. I didn't, they never really said you're fired, or anything like that. They're like, well, when Egypt's ready, she'll come back, and I was going through rehab. And then the end of season 2 came and the total split, David McLean taking the crew. And listen, those girls, it wasn't about staying with Matt and getting more airtime, maybe later as I healed. It was, my family's going with David. I'm going with David. I love David. He's like a brother to me. He's always had our back. He was always fighting for us. He was always pushing us to be wrestlers, right? He really wanted, his dream for G.L.O.W was not the same dream that Matt had for G.L.O.W, but you can see the evolution of David McLean's dream if you just watch his work in WoW. Okay, that is what he dreamed of for G.L.O.W. So with those girls, right, they're the WoW girls, they're amazing wrestlers, they're superheroes, and that was the vision that I bought into with David when I first decided to do this. And I knew that if I was on that bus with David, that we would be moving with that vision. And that's when he formed POW, Powerful Women of Wrestling. We did a tour. I was there for the tour. I had a completely different costume. It was a blue Little Egypt costume, which I still have. It's in perfect condition. And I never really stepped in the ring on that tour. And again, David never let me go. But when we took a break between tours, I didn't ask him to come back. If I would have said, hey, David, can I come back? He probably would have said, yeah, sure. How you feeling? Maybe he'll always find a place for me, because when that's David's heart, he doesn't let people go from his life. But I was like, this is it. This is the end. But with every ending, there's always a new beginning, right? We don't know what that beginning's going to be. We just are in the energy of, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. I just lost my family. How am I going to segue this into anything? How do I take this talent into anything? But here's and maybe we'll just end on this, Mike, to cut your interview short. And that's about women empowerment. Because what G.L.O.W taught me was to be fearless, to be uncomfortable in a physical way, using physicality to be able to really imprint on me at a cellular level that I could do extraordinary things, that I can be brave, that I can be uncomfortable, that I can try things that I've never tried before and be successful at it. And so it started with Fiji's belief in me, because she believed in me, when I had no belief in myself. But I learned I could borrow hers until I started developing my own belief. Then I took that belief and I went into real estate for 20 years. And I became one of the top realtors in Las Vegas. I stayed in Las Vegas, closing over 1,000 homes. That's an amazing track record as a real estate agent. And I was able to really retire at the age of 45. And when I retired, I moved to Laguna Beach, which is where I live right now. And I love it here. I love it. And in Laguna Beach is where I found my third calling. And that was in Arbonne, which is a network marketing company. We produce vegan, uh, plant-based products. We have over 400 of them. And I was able to take what I learned in wrestling, my business savvy that I learned in real estate, and I built in Arbonne a huge empire of men and women who I empower on a daily basis, because what I learned, I'm able to duplicate. And I am so excited about that, because I finally found my calling. I finally found a way to give back, a way to inspire. And I use my stories and my history to show people that you have to be brave. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to do things you've never done before in order for other people to follow. And that's what we're here for, Mike. Like, we are here to lead, not to follow. We are here to live our best lives. We are here to have experiences and evolve, right? There's nothing sexy about being comfortable, right? That's, to me, a huge turnoff. There's nothing special about being comfortable. Comfortable is safe. There's nothing to learn being comfortable. It's when you become uncomfortable. That's the beauty of the journey that you are here to take. And for me, it started being uncomfortable in the ring. Then I started being uncomfortable in real estate till I could figure that out. And then it was being uncomfortable in building my own network marketing business in Arbonne, until I started becoming comfortable. And now, because of that, I have a really awesome organization, and I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. So, Mike, with that, thank you so much for having me. I loved being here, and I hope you guys that were listening heard some things about behind the scenes G.L.O.W that maybe you never heard before. So,
yep, thank you for joining us today, Little Egypt. Really quick before we let you go, I just want to have your thoughts on G.L.O.W Netflix, on how you enjoy watching G.L.O.W Netflix.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I was actually one of the producers on the documentary that's on Netflix called G.L.O.W, the story of the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. I worked on that documentary for 2.5 years. Actually, there was no money to pay me. I just wanted to give these guys, we had 2 guys, the director and the producer, Brad and Brett, who came up with the idea that this would be a great documentary. And they were working with Ursula on like getting the story together, but they weren't able to find a lot of the girls. And because I had this background in real estate, I had tax records, a lot of the girls were in Vegas. I was able to reach out to family members. I was able to track down girls, and girls were calling me back because they could connect with me. They knew it was legit, that I wasn't just some crazed up person looking to talk to them. And I was able to, towards the end of the documentary, find 40 out of the 60 girls that were cast in G.L.O.W. So if you have not watched the documentary G.L.O.W, the story of the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, oh my God, watch it. It's considered one of the best wrestling documentaries ever made. And because of that documentary airing on Netflix, it was seen by the writers of Orange is the New Black, who thought, wait a minute, this could be a great series. They walked it, they took it to their executive producer, Jenji Cohen, who is a freaking rock star. And they said, what do you think about a series based on G.L.O.W? And she said, absolutely. They walked it into Netflix. They got picked up for season 1. They started getting Emmy nominations right off the bat. And now they are in the process of filming season 4. And this will be their final season, which coincidentally, and makes this whole story of G.L.O.W such a beautiful ending, is that G.L.O.W only aired for 4 seasons. So it's just kind of like it all comes together full circle. And if you're in the right vibration, and if you do things for the right reasons, because when I was working on that documentary, I never said, I'm working on this documentary and one day it's going to be a series. No, I just wanted the organic story to be told. I wanted to be able to say, wait a minute, this is not a story that only 6 people are going to tell here. Like this story started with people that I don't even know. Like we need to get this story and as many people together to tell this story as possible. And then it just evolved into this beautiful arc with Mount Fiji and just all of us coming together for the right reasons. And there there are wrestlers in that documentary that want nothing to do with connecting to the fan base because they've just moved on from it. And if you're really curious about what these girls look like, watch the documentary, because there's a reunion scene at the end, and you will see just how beautiful they are and just how amazing the story was, and their efforts to come together just to see Mount Fiji one last time. God bless her soul. She passed away, but she did not pass away without knowing that she was loved, that her story was told, that she was important, and she never felt that she disappeared. She'll never disappear as long as I have breath in me, because my story doesn't exist without Mount Fiji.
Yes, and I think a perfect statement that somebody said once too is that Mount Fiji was the heart of G.L.O.W. There's so many wrestlers, so many wonderful girls in there, but it all kind of boils back to Mount Fiji.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to dispute that, because she was absolutely incredible. She was an athlete, Mike. She was an Olympic athlete, and she treated her wrestling career like it was a sport. And because of her leadership, which I followed, I took my job as a wrestler very, very seriously too, and I treated it like a sport.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We had so much fun learning so much with you. Can you tell everybody how they can get in contact with you on social media?
Okay, so Instagrammers, you can find me. I got so lucky because I went on Instagram early and snagged my page title is Little Egypt. Run it together. It's one word. You'll see lots of fun stuff there. If you're on Facebook, I have G.L.O.W Little Egypt is my fan page. Also, I have, if you just put in Angelina Altishin, that's my name, you'll see two profiles come up. One is my kind of like my working profile, where I have a big Arbonne community there, and the other one is wrestling specific. So if you want to see like old school photos or anything I'm doing with WOW, or anything that I'm doing with the Cauliflower Alley Club, or anything with me and any other wrestler on the planet, go look for that profile. It's an open profile. Just follow it. Make sure you click on the notification so that when I do make a post, you don't miss it.
All right. Thank you very much. We loved having you here today. And thank you everybody for watching. Keep it right here for some more great interviews, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks everybody.
Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.